Our next application has to do with simple interest. So before we do any questions with simple interest, let's remind ourselves that the formula for interest is PRT. So to find simple interest, we would take principal, which is the amount invested or borrowed, times the rate. Remember, the rate should always be turned into a decimal, times the time in years. So here, if I'm investing $5,000, that would be the principal. In an account that earns 5.25% simple interest, I would move that decimal 2 places to the left. That's going to be my rate. So that's my principal, my rate. How much money is in the account at the end of 3-year period? That would, of course, be time. So this one's going to be pretty straightforward. To find the interest, I'm looking for principal times rate times time. Multiplying those values together gives me 787.5, and that's where a lot of students stop and they say I would have $787.50. But remember, I have this 5,000. This is just the amount that's being added to the 5,000 I already have. So my total amount would be 5,000 plus 787.50, which would of course give me $5,787.50 in the account. Again, for the sake of time, I'm not going to write those sentences, but you should write a sentence if it is a story problem. Let's do a more complicated simple interest question. Again, I'm going to go ahead and write I equals PRT at the top because that's the simple interest formula. But in this case, I have actually interest from 2 different sources. So it makes sense that if I took the interest from the bank and the interest from my friend, that would be total interest. Not a bad idea to write this out because now I know exactly what I'm looking for. Now, if I were trying to find the interest from the bank, I of course would use PRT from the values from the bank. And if I'm trying to find the interest from my friend, then I would take PRT for the values from my friend. So I have all of that except for this part right here is a little bit challenging. I don't know how much I invested in the bank and how much I invested to my friend. I just know total that it's $8,000. So if I say, let's let P equal the principal at the bank, then can I also find the principal to my friend? Well, I know it's 8,000 total, so couldn't I just subtract however much I have at the bank, and that would give me the interest that I got from my friend? So 8,000 minus P would give me principal, not interest, principal at the friend. So these are the 2 variables that I will be using. So to find the interest at the bank, I'm going to take the principal from the bank, which is P, times the rate at the bank, which is 5%, times the time at the bank, which is 1. To find the interest charged by my friend, I'm going to take the principal at my friend, which is of course 8,000 minus P, times the rate, which is 0.01. Remember, we always move that decimal 2 places, times the time with my friend, which is 1, and the total interest is $280. So now it's just a matter of simplifying and solving that equation. 0.05p plus 80 minus 0.01p equals 280. I would subtract the 80 from each side and also combine these terms. Let's go ahead and combine these first. That gives me 0.04p equals, by subtracting the 80 from each side, 200. And now I'm going to divide by 0.04, which gives me my value for P, which is $5,000. So again, when you get to the end of a question, make sure that you've answered the entire question. So I found the value for P, but the question says determine the amount you borrowed from your friend and from the bank. So if P is 5,000, that means I borrowed 5,000 from the bank. But how much did I borrow from my friend? I would have to take 8,000 minus 5,000, so 3,000 from my friend. So again, I would write that sentence. I borrowed 5,000 from the bank and $3,000 from my friend. This is a simple interest application for you to try on your own. So press pause, do this question, then press play to check your work. This one is very similar to the last question that we did. Again, I'm going to, in this case, set X equal to the principal from the bank, which would make, in this case, 10,000 minus X, the principal from the friend. Just as we did in the last one, I'm going to take the interest from each source, and total, that gives me 735. A couple of tricky things here. First, the two rates, again, they're given in percents. I'm still doing the same thing. A lot of people get creeped out because there are 1, 2, 3 decimals to the right, or 3 values to the right of the decimal. It doesn't change anything. This one is a little tricky, however. We know that time is in years, and our friend only let us borrow that money for 9 months. So 9 months out of 12 months needs to be turned into a decimal or fraction. So 9 over 12 reduces to 3/4. For the sake of ease, I'm going to turn that into 0.75 and use that in my equation. So to borrow money from the bank, the principal is X, the rate is 0.055, the time is 2 years, and the principal from my friend is 10,000 minus X times the rate of 0.025 times the time of 0.75. The first term, equals 735 total. So the first term should be 0.11x. And I'm not going to distribute anything on this value yet until I've multiplied these two values together, which gives me 0.01875. And that's the value that I'll distribute to both values. When I'm multiplying by 10,000, remember there's 4 zeros, so I'm really just taking 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be 187.5 minus all of this times X. Now I'm going to combine like terms and subtract the 187.5 from each side, which gives me 547.5, and then divide it by this value. That gives me X equals 6,000. Again, I need to pay attention to the fact that I'm finding the amount from each source. So if X is 6,000, then that means I've borrowed 6,000 from the bank and 4,000 from my friend.